this video, I'll showcase you guys the top 5 habits of successful people. Let's get straight into it. The first habit that I know every successful person has is that they focus on making money rather than spending money. And before you click off the video, hold on, if you've seen this tip. If you haven't seen this tip, I'll break it down as well. But essentially, many people say this, but not many people truly understand the significance of this because it's very easy to say it. But I've got my own story which will add a touch on this. But to give you an overview, in this finance space, we go Oz Reddit or just any personal finance space, everyone's focused on contracting and reducing spending. But the problem is you can only reduce so much. You can only lower your internet connection so much. You can only cut out rent so much or even your food. Like sure, there is a limit which you can do it to, which is good if you get to that. But at the same time, it's only a small limit, especially if you're already frugal. That advice can be good for people who, spend a lot of money. But if you're already in this space, you generally aren't that sort of person. So it begs the question, is this truly effective? Now I'll touch on with my own story. This is an event that recently happened to me where I had to spend money, and I'm not generally a fan of spending money, as you can assume, finance, but it's something that couldn't be put off, so I had to spend money. But at the end of the month, I still saved money. And you may be saying, whoa, Mihir, that's such a big epiphany. It doesn't mean anything, because you can make 5,000 and you spend 3,000. By default, you're gonna save 2,000. But you guys don't understand what I've just said. It was a big expense that I could not put off, and I still saved money. You wouldn't get to this point, obviously, if you're a very low income earner, but if you earn a decent to slightly above average, then you can truly understand this principle because you're like, hold on, I did such a big ticket purchase, yet I still saved, and my savings are still increasing month on month. That's crazy. And that's where I want people to focus on, because too many times we focus on, reducing subscriptions, doing that, lowering all these things, but you can only save 100% of your income. Whereas with your income, you can grow it to however much you want. The only thing you need is a multiplier in your income. Now there'll be some detractors saying that, oh, well, Mihir, I knew this person who was on an average salary, and by the time they retired, they had 2 million in their, ETFs or their investments account. You know what? Let's actually break down that strategy. Let's say, I'm going to be generous. Let's say you're 25 years old, and let's say you allow the money to compound for 30 years. You're effectively putting $1,000 every month for 30 years. Let's see how that fares. So here you can see that we put $1,000 every month annually for 30 years at an annual interest rate of 10%. Let's go with 10%. Let's be on the higher end. You almost end up with 2 million at the end of 30 years. So the total interest is 1.6 million, and you put 360K, which is not too shabby. And you basically have a investment portfolio of 2 million by the time you're 55, which is not too bad per se. However, many problems can arise with this number because you're assuming you'll be depositing $1,000 a month for 30 years straight. That's not assuming any financial things that happen. Maybe you get married, maybe your cash flow becomes tight, medical problems, a family member gets in trouble. Anything, a wide area of problems can happen. Because 30 years, to be $1,000 a month, 30 years consistently, that is very consistent. So that's what this equation doesn't factor in. And let's say you went with the route of, okay, maybe not 30 years, let's go 10 years. Let's say if you did that for 10 years, so instead of 30, your portfolio would be at 191K, which doesn't necessarily break the bank, especially if you consider dividend stuff at 0.3% or 0.4, not a huge deal. Let's say instead of 10, you went with 20. 20 would be essentially 687K, which is good money, but still not really life-changing for 20 years. I hope with this illustration, you can see that, sure, you can make a good amount of money, even on, let's say, like an average salary, $1,000 a month, but you're saving, but there's too many variables that are not accounted for, not to mention like $2 million, sure, it sounds good, but by the time in 30 years, inflation, steadily the value of your money is declining, but at the same time, your expenses may go up. Maybe you have healthcare expenses, you may have that expenses, and at the end of this, the way I like to think of it's kind of a bit pessimistic in a sense, but let's say you somehow lost it. I know it's a big if, but if you somehow lost it and you had to sort of work, how much would you earn? So my mindset and whole belief is that you gotta have skills in the market. Right? Because if you somehow lost that portfolio, maybe you got fraud, something wild happens, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna start from scratch again and then save all the way up there? No, it's not practical. The second point piggybacks of this, and that is the second habit that successful people follow, which is the greatest return on investment or ROI you have is in yourself. So invest in yourself. And I know it sounds cheesy and you may have heard of it, but not many people truly expand on this point as to what it means to invest in yourself. Investing in yourself simply means taking courses, taking education to simply build up your income earning potential or possibly preserve it. So an example I can give in my own situation would be, as I'm, studying computer science and stuff and I'm in the IT field, a perfect one is like a degree. A degree in my case is an investment. And I know in the internet culture, a lot of people are like anti-degree and all that, but generally the stats speak for themselves. Like sure, there's a couple of entrepreneurs that really push it, but they work really hard and they're really good at what they do after a lot of hard work. So you can go down that way, but if you look at the stats, like generally a degree or some sort of certification, no matter if you go into trades or like a white collar job, you got to have some sort of certification. So that's a good, I guess, ROI investing myself, and also IT certificates like CompTIA and stuff, and pretty much anything that relates to technology that you'll be working on. Whatever occupation or profession that you're going to enter, you will have some of these things. Maybe you'll get accredited with XYZ board or something that can essentially level you up. And the thing with this is, even just by improving your skills, you increase the likelihood of increasing your income. And not to mention, that is pretty good. But another key factor that people don't talk about is that you preserve your income level. Let's say you get a layoff, you lose your job or something misfortunate happens. Guess what? You can go into another job because you have preserved those skills. You don't lose skills overnight. You may lose investments and stuff, but the knowledge you have in here, you don't lose that overnight. So this is why it's very important to invest in yourself. The third habit successful people do is that they focus on great opportunities, not good opportunities. How many times have people done this? I myself have done this numerous times where I've opted for a good opportunity rather than waiting for a great opportunity, a great deal. It's like quantity over quality in a sense. And this comes from a scarcity mindset that most people have. And a perfect example I can give you, which most of you probably would have done, is that you may have taken a slightly higher paying job, right? You go a bit greedy, you're like, oh, it's good pay. But there's no room for you to improve your skills or essentially to move up in some sort of level. You're essentially just stuck. And if you lost that job whatsoever, you would, your skills don't account for that. You're paid above the market, you'll just go back down. So a lot of us, and 90% of people, they do decisions based on a quick cash grab. They focus on quick money rather than long-term money, which also becomes long and much bigger. But that's another misconception, I guess, that people have, is that sure, you have a good opportunity, but doesn't mean you need to bite on every opportunity. I have a personal story as well, and this one which I'd like to share. I won't go into too much detail, but basically I made one decision, just this one decision, and I actually failed at it. I persisted to get and go through with it till the end, but this one decision allowed me to just improve the quality of my life significantly, both monetarily and every way you can sort of think of. It opened so many doors where it increased my income, but also so many job opportunities. I won't talk about exactly what it is, but just by doing these small decisions, which I've realized, it wasn't really a big decision, but the outcome and the consequences of that have caved and paved the way through for me to move forward. So that's how you guys should, look at life. What are these decisions I can make rather than getting, maybe a higher paying job now, rather than, doing that and sacrificing your long-term future self. Maybe get a lower paying job, but you can learn more on that job and then you can progress forward and forward. Because many people are too focused on trying to get quick cash rather than improving their skills. And if you do that, or maybe not even a skill-based thing, but you put yourself in the right room, you will go much further. And I've realized that with the own decision that I made, as it's paving so many paths for me to move forward and also giving me a steady and a strong base to go off. The small decisions that you didn't take may haunt you, but I'm telling you, it's that one big decision, sort of like that decision I made before, that changes the trajectory of your life forever. Just one decision. And that's why it's so important you're very selective of what you do, who you also hang out with, your friends, your environment, stuff like that. Because it's like I've iterated so many times, I don't want to, do it, but this one decision can truly change the trajectory of your life. Even if you maybe necessarily don't work hard as much, but just because you pick the right pathway, you will go much further. So please do keep this in mind. Make great decisions and chase great opportunities rather than good opportunities. And the way you identify great or good is essentially like, how beneficial is this? For example, a good opportunity could maybe a 10% pay rise, but a great opportunity could be something like you learn from someone who's an expert in the field, and then 2-3 years down the line, you essentially make a lot more. It's just based on long-term thinking. Do you believe this in long-term will help me? Yes or no? And based on that, you can determine if it's a great decision or not. The fourth habit I've seen highly successful people do, which I also do now as well, is journaling. Journaling has taught me so many things about myself and so many things about these high performers as well. So many high performers such as Steve Jobs, Marcus Aurelius, an emperor, Seneca, all these great minds, they had a journal. And you'd be surprised the answers you have. That previous point I focused on and talked to you about the great and the good opportunities, that point was in my journal in 2020. 2 years ago, it was already in my journal. I had written it down. And the question is, or I guess the answer, is that many people think that they need to find the answers on the internet. But if you really dig deep down, you know what to do. It's the same thing with, okay, you want to lose fat. How do you lose fat? You exercise more, you eat less. You already have the answer. Because many people don't like education, especially in the age where we are, the digital age. There's no lack of education, I'd say, especially in this first world country. We know what to do. It's just a matter of doing it. And with journaling, you can find these sort of little nuggets and see where you're messing up. Because I myself was chasing good opportunities rather than great opportunities. But luckily, I worked hard and I set myself for a great opportunity. And then I'm reporting to you the effects of it. So journaling allows you to see where your shortfalls are, what you can possibly do to improve, and also see your strengths. It's just a very good process, and I believe everyone should do it. And if you're not sure how to journal, I'll leave an eye icon up here for the video I just made some time back, so please watch that video on journaling. But aside from that, in journaling, not just from a monetary point of view, but even just yourself, you've put yourself in a meditative state where you can understand things better and you're being unbiased and emotional in terms of thinking, because then you can truly gauge if the decision you made was a good one or a bad one. The fifth habit of highly successful people is delaying gratification. Too many people are caught up in instant gratification activities where they binge watch Netflix shows, play video games for hours on end, eat a lot of junk food without any consequences for their health, so many things like that. And it's honestly one of the biggest things that a lot of successful people don't do. I mean, they may indulge in some of these habits, but not as much as you think. Very rarely. A lot of successful people the amount of TV they watch is negligible. They don't watch much TV. What they do is they swap it with a lower gratification activity like reading. So that's what you guys should do. You guys should gradually reduce and basically cover the time, because the human brain doesn't like reducing things. Because if you don't go from like video games, you'll go to like watching movies or something. If you cut video games or something, you go to watch movies. If you cut movies, you'll eat something else, junk food. It just transverses. So you got to fill up the time. And the way you fill up the time is by establishing positive replacement habits. With Netflix, read books. Reduce Netflix slowly and increase book reading consumption. With eating junk food, increase a bit of healthier food. Maybe have a little bit, but just increase. So video games, maybe play like chess or something. Play something else. Do something better. It doesn't have to be a fully net positive. It just has to be slightly better. Many times people don't have the motivation, and I'm a huge advocate of discipline, but at the same time you have to be somewhat motivated, right? And this is where dopamine comes into this discussion. As if you're not aware of what dopamine is essentially a chemical, a neurochemical in the body that activates or releases a lot of itself when you're anticipating a pleasurable activity. Maybe you're going to eat pizza. The pleasure you feel when you're about to go to the pizza shop, do the order, is very high. That's where dopamine comes in. And the pizza may itself taste okay, but not as much as the high you got when you were going through that process of ordering the pizza. So that's where dopamine is. And by reducing these activities that I've told you, adopting activities like journaling, meditating, exercising, reading, just things like that, or just cutting down content consumption in general, you will power much better than everyone else. Because since your dopamine level isn't like being destroyed, you will be able to focus on tasks much better and accomplish things much better. That's in fact what I did. I cut down a lot of movies, a lot of video games. Like I haven't played a video game in a long time. Or if I do, maybe like an hour a month if I have. Or maybe I play for a short period for a long time, but maybe like 5-6 hours in like 4 months, 5 months. So that's what happens eventually. But that doesn't mean you piggyback off that and then go, okay, I don't play video games, I'm watching movies. So you got to fill up the time like I iterated before, but also reduce these activities slowly by slowly. Because the thing that people don't realize with dopamine, sort of going into bro science, not really bro science, is that once you go from a high, you don't go back to baseline, you drop. So essentially, you keep dropping the more you involve in these activities, hence why you don't feel as happy as much or motivated. Whereas if you cut them out, right, your baseline doesn't really go down. Your baseline just stays here. Sort of hovers a little bit, doesn't drop. So that's things you can do. And I know a lot of successful people like this, they don't like indulging in this stuff. Or if they do, it is very rarely. It is not every day, every weekend, it's every couple of months or so. which makes sense. Hence why I'm not saying like eliminate it, reduce it slowly and progressively. With progressive overload, same sort of concept, reduce it slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly. I hope this video was beneficial and showed you a couple of habits that successful people did that maybe you weren't aware of and then you will start doing. But most of these habits, if not pretty much all these habits, I've been doing them myself, and I've found a huge effect and a correlation in my life by doing them. Not only in terms of productivity, in terms of making money, but also in day-to-day tasks. I'm much quicker, I'm more present in the task, I'm less anxious. It's just much better overall, not only from that monetary point of view, like I've been stressing. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like, and please check out my other videos as well. I believe you'll find them entertaining and valuable and educational. Aside from that, please hit like and hit subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.